Howdy, everybody. You know, when I first came here to Nicaragua, I was exposed to a lot of new things, like you would in any new place that you come to. And one of the things that particularly struck me was that the workers, particularly the farm workers, all wear long sleeve shirts, kind of like the one that I'm wearing here. And I thought this is really weird. This is a tropical climate. A lot of times the temperatures can be very hot. And even if the reported temperature isn't hot, the sun is very strong. And I thought that it was because they're trying to protect themselves from sunburn. But coming from Puerto Rico, I had learned to respect the sun. And people in Puerto Rico don't necessarily wear long sleeve shirts all the time out in the sun. And so I said, well, there has to be some other reason for it. And I eventually found out why the hard way. And that's because here in Nicaragua, we have a lot of ticks, and then we have another insect called a chigger. It's even worse than a tick in many ways. And the only way to really protect yourself from getting bitten by those insects is to cover yourself. Then, as you're walking through the forest or through high grass, like what we have here on the farm, it's not uncommon to encounter a Bullhorn Acacia. You could probably imagine what it's like to walk into one of these. This is a young one. It's not fully mature. When the thorns are mature, they're about the size of a man's thumb. They're huge, extremely sharp. If one of these is on the ground and you're walking, it can puncture the sole of your shoe. It's so sharp. Or if you're riding like a motorcycle, it'll puncture the tire. Let me tell you, this is a badass plant. They are a member of the Fabaceae family, which means that they fix nitrogen. They take nitrogen from the air, convert the nitrogen from the atmospheric form into a form that the plant can use. So they're good in that regard. But let me tell you, you don't want to be walking in the forest or in high grass and suddenly walk right into one of these, because those thorns really hurt when you get stuck with them. In Nicaragua, this tree is usually cut down as soon as it emerges. The minute you see one growing up as like a young sapling, it's cut. So why would they do that? Well, first of all, you don't want to run into a tree with this kind of thorns. Believe it or not, it's not that hard to run into it when you're walking through tall grass and just don't see it. You may be going with a machete to help cut some of the grass out of the way, and next thing you know, you've cut one of these Bullhorn Acacias and it falls right down on top of you. That is not a good experience. Let me tell you, those thorns really hurt when you get hit by them. But on top of that, Varicella cornigera has its own private army. That's right, it has its own secret weapon of ants. And it's a specific type of ant, Pseudomyrmex ferruginea. And this is a wasp-like ant, and they sting like a wasp. They are fiercely protective of this plant. And I'm going to try to go in close here to see if you could see them, because me just standing here and talking has caused the ants to become agitated. I don't want to get stung, so there it goes. So the ants don't like anything coming near the tree. They don't like anything coming near it. And that's a dog, a cat, a deer, a sheep, a goat, or a human. They'll attack anybody. Not only that, they patrol around the tree, so you can't even get too close to it without getting bitten by the ants. So I'm a little in a danger zone right now. The ants themselves live inside the thorns. At the base of each of these thorns, there is a hole that they go into, and I don't know if you can see it here. There's a hole that they go into. And so they colonize all of these thorns. And like I said, just the sound, the vibration of me talking has caused them to become agitated. Another thing that causes them to be agitated is a smell that they're not accustomed to. You know, I took a shower this morning, but that doesn't matter to them. So they have what is called a mutualistic symbiosis with this tree, Bullhorn Acacia. A lot of regular trees have compounds in the leaves that make them very unpalatable to insects, but Bullhorn Acacia does not have that. So their leaves are very tasty to insects. So the way that they have evolved to protect themselves is through this symbiotic relationship with the ants, these extremely fierce ants who attack virtually anything, and they attack as a group, they swarm. In return, the ants are fed. The ants don't have to leave the tree. The Bullhorn Acacia tree feeds them with something called Beltian bodies that are at the tips of the leaves, and Beltian bodies contain fats and proteins that the ants need. And then they also secrete along their stems, going out to the leaves, a sugar, a carbohydrate-rich secretion that the ants eat as well. So everybody's happy except anybody who happens to walk into one of them, or even walk near one of them, or even just accidentally stand near one of them. As I said before, in Nicaragua, we like to cut these down almost immediately before the ants have a chance to colonize all of the thorns. They're extremely difficult to cut down when the ants have colonized the thorns. You know, if you use a machete and the trunk is small enough, you might be able to get it with one swipe. But then you have to worry about the act of hitting the tree, knocking some of the ants in the air onto you, or the tree falling onto you or near you, and the ants attacking you that way. So Bullhorn Acacia is definitely a tree to stay away from. We have some here on the farm because they are nitrogen fixers, and we have them in areas where we don't walk that much, and we don't have to worry about accidentally walking into one of them and being struck by the thorns or attacked by the ants. So this is quite a tree. So this is the reason why people here that work outside, particularly on farms, are wearing long sleeve shirts even though the temperature might be even 100 degrees. Like I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt now. Because of things like Bullhorn Acacia, we have other plants here that also are thorned or spined plants that can, literally tear your jeans. Some of them are so strong. And then the insects like chiggers and ticks and other things like that biting you, and ants. With that, I'm going to stop, and I'll see you in the next video.